And so at this point, we say Happy Veterans Day or Happy Poppy Day.
Yeah.
On November 13th is Happy Poppy Day, but they will have a moment of silence at 11 o'clock in the UK on 11/11, which is today. And thank you, veterans, for your service. We appreciate it. Did you have veterans in your family, Kelvin? I don't think I've ever asked you.
I don't think my family kind of somehow missed it all. My mother was about 4 or 5 during the Second World War. She was only a toddler. So, and I think my grandfather was a farmer, so he was still working on the land. And my father's side, they're from Ireland, and so weren't in the war as such.
Right.
So,
well, that happens. I
have an uncle. I have an uncle who was older than my mother, and I think he served. I think he did some service.
Right.
So
maybe we have a history in our family on both sides of military. I got a nephew that lives down south of me, but nephew by marriage, Mark. He was deployed 6 times. Right. 6. And they said, oh, well, you change your MOS, your job in the Army, and you won't get deployed anymore. It'll be over with. And he was close to retirement. I mean, he was a career guy in the Army. And so he changed his job. Within not very long at all, like a couple of months, they said, hey, we need your job overseas. He said, get somebody else. And he retired. And now he works for the state. When they had the big hurricanes and whatnot on the East Coast, they flew him from here in Washington State in the West down there to the disaster area to help with that effort, because that's what he does. He does. I mean, imagine after being in war 6 times, to have a flood or a windstorm is probably not that big a deal to him, but everybody else is going, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? So I think he must be a rock of support. And speaking of rock of support, my dad got a new rifle. It's made by a company here in the States called Savage. And he couldn't figure out how to get the bolt in. You know, it's a bolt action rifle. It's a 22-250, a little tiny bullet with a great big wad of powder, and couldn't get it in. He said, do what you do. He calls it, do what you do. You get me the instructions. You know, I said, oh, okay, I'll just Google it. So I looked it up and I got the phone number. So I just called him up. I called customer service at Savage Arms. This young man named Mark walked me through how to go to their website and download the section of the 38-page manual that covered installing the bolts. So big shout out, thank you to Mark. And he can really strut because he got a shout out before you know who. And speaking of you know who, and I thought of Fraser Ramsey, the guy that runs Edinburgh Dusters, because of the comparison to our election recently, which was quite a surprise. I'm sure it made the papers in UK as well. Yeah, they said that the election of Donald Trump and Brexit were both signs that the populace is tired of business as usual. And I never thought about that, but it may well be. They said that when the people were encouraged to vote for the Democrats, they said, no, I've had 8 years of no job and eating rice and drinking Kool-Aid.
Our guy Farage,
yeah,
he came on he was on the Trump ticket and gave a speech basically urging everybody to not take up arms, but really take the fight and vote, because he was the one that got us all to vote for coming out of Europe. So they reckon Farage it might even get a job in Trump's team.
He's going to be as good as his cabinet is of people he selects. Now, of course, all the people of color are saying, oh, he's going to have a white man cabinet and it's going to be really bad and really racist. I said, folks, come on, it's not 1957, okay? It's 2016. Those days are somewhat behind us. Not completely, but somewhat behind us. And the people that Hillary called deplorables, that was one I'll never forget. And I'm not a Trump supporter, but I guess you'd say a deplorable, because I wasn't a Hillary supporter either. And that's another story we'll do in a whole separate show, some political event show. And anyway, that whole bit of nonsense about rioting in the streets and blocking traffic. I mean, there's people being nuts about the election. I guess the state of Oregon has filed a thing to say, we don't want to be under Trump as president. We're going to be our own country. And there's a slogan called "Keep Oregon Weird," and it reminds me, that's pretty weird, trying to be your own country. So I think that that's a good go at that effort.
But Trump has already toned down his rhetoric, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, because he's now dealing with the people that really run things, and they're going to Donald and say, well, you said some stuff to get elected, to keep your name in the press.
He could, in the end,
now it's time for the real thing. Yeah,
he could disappoint all those people he promised things. They've all voted for him. Now he's toned everything back.
Well, listen to him talk about the immigration issue. We'll just pick one off the top. And he's really softened that up from his hard, oh, we're loading everybody on a bus and kicking them out. That's it. Now it's, well, if you're a criminal, you'll have to leave. Well, big news flash, Don. They had to leave anyway. If you're in the country illegally and you get arrested and they look you up and they go, oh, you're an immigrant that doesn't have papers, you're on the bus going back to Mexico anyway. And you'll be back Monday after you wade the river. But that's a strange thing. And speaking of strange, so we don't go on and on forever and people go, there's really not a show today. That's right, folks. We're thanking the veterans for their service. We're talking a little bit of politics. We thanked Mark at the Savage Arms Company. And we did. Oh, did we shout out for friends? Oh, wait a minute. We're getting. I'm going too fast.
One thing at a time.
Yeah, Friends Just Chatting is a group in Facebook that this guy started in order to have friends just chatting, which I love it because keep it simple.
But it does what it says on the tin.
Right. It does what it says on the tin. That's right. And the true definition of that is it does what it says on the tin. It's the same thing in either English or in English. It's doing what it says on the tin. So thanks to Eileen Smith, too, for Screencast-O-Matic. She hadn't told us about that many months ago. She has a blog, basicblogtips.com. Give that a look. And I'm at a stump. I don't think there's anything else. We didn't have a big wrap-up today for the people in expectation because we didn't do a show this week. I had some issues that called me out of town, so we simply didn't do a show. And so, Lord willing, I get over this bit of a cold you can hear in my congestion. And Emily has a good Friday at Grandpa's house with fish and chips, of course.
It's fish and chips day to day.
That's right. And that's how it should be. And because it's all about user expectation. Even if you're a Wii user, you have the expectation. And so on that note, I think I'm going to say those three magic words, right?
Right.
Thank you, Kelvin, for being here with us every day. And
have a good weekend.
Will do. It's a wrap.